A few years ago, I was asked to speak to a group of ministers about why theology is important for ministry. And I changed the title and said, why theology is necessary for ministry. And I really believe that. This is a theological seminary, and a lot of people come not sure what that is. So theology is the study of God and knowing God through His revelation of Himself. I personally believe that God cares what we think about Him. And so people are always asking me, well, what's the practical value of theology? And my first answer is, even if there isn't any, God cares what we think about Him. He's given us a whole book, and He wants us to interpret it correctly and know the right things about Him that He's told us about Himself. But secondly, I think that theology is very practical, in fact necessary for ministry. For example, when you're in the ministry, someone will come to you and say, my child died, and that was a few years ago maybe, but I'm still wrestling with it. Why would God allow that to happen? You better have some kind of answer, and not just, oh, it's a mystery. You know, that's kind of a cop-out, I think, that a lot of people go into when they don't know any answers. So one thing we do in Theological Seminary, here anyway, is provide you with the answers to those questions. Not necessarily the right answer, but the answers that are within the range of Christian belief that's considered biblical and orthodox. Well, theology is studied historically here at Truett. We have courses in doctrine and systematic theology, but mainly we approach theology from a historical perspective, and that means we have 3 courses, Christian Texts and Traditions 1, 2, and 3, in which students study the early church fathers and actually read their own writings, and the reformers, Luther and Calvin, and then after the Reformation, Wesley and others, Jonathan Edwards, and then contemporary theologians. And we read their actual writings, primary texts we call them, and those are our teachers. So there's a teacher in the room guiding and leading the discussion who's knowledgeable, but the books are often as much the teacher as the professor is. One of the great things about Truett Seminary that I think makes it different from other seminaries is that there is really a close relationship and rapport and even friendship a lot of times between faculty and students. I take some of my students to lunch, have students at my home, and so do all the other faculty members. And so it's a community and not just a school. We really get to know each other and learn from each other. And in the classroom, the learning is student-centered. It's not professor-centered. So most of it is discussion. The students lead the discussion themselves. And the professor is not there reigning over them as the expert over everything and telling them the truths that they must learn and know, but rather we're learning together.